Hi, this is Dennis Tafe. Indiana and the Midwest have long been known for their abundant wildlife. In fact, 23 species found in Indiana are on the endangered species list. These include the Myotis sodalis, otherwise known as the Indiana bat. Other animals include the copperbelly water snake and many freshwater mussels and clams, including the Pleurodema clava, also known as the clubshell clam. However, I was surprised not to find one of the most elusive mammals of all on the list: the Yetti, otherwise known as Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Bigfoot. Bigfoot.
I decided to go on an expedition of my own, a 3-day expedition, in search of this Yeti. There must be a Sasquatch in Bloomington, and I was quite sure I could capture the elusive creature. I arrived at my campsite, and on the very first day, I went looking for the Yeti. So far, I had not found any hints of a Bigfoot, though, even though I was in what is reported to be one of the Bigfoot's favorite mating areas. In any case, I hired some experts to accompany me on the expedition, and I had to ask them questions. The most important being, just what is a Bigfoot?
I'm Jay Smith, and it's my job to give you a first-hand report on Bigfoot. I've been here in this camp for several days. We're told it's Bigfoot country. From this camp, a vast wilderness area is now being searched for the Bigfoot. This is Ron Olson. Ron's from Springfield, Oregon, and he heads up expeditions looking for the Bigfoot. Ron, tell me, just what is a Bigfoot?
Excuse me a minute. Craig, hold that thing up a minute. Bigfoot, or Sasquatch as he's called in Canada, is a giant, hair-covered, human-like creature that's been reported more and more throughout the mountains of the northwestern United States and Canada.
How big do they run?
Many sightings have revealed this creature to be between 7 to 9 feet tall and 600 to 900 pounds.
Well,
On my first day, I did discover in a clearing what I believe was a Yeti dung. It may have been freshly dumped there no more than a few days or so. I was excited at discovering this rare find. You see, I theorized that I was in one of Yeti's favorite feeding grounds. I had been told of many sightings where Bigfoot were seen eating the fish swimming in the creek. I was told that the Bigfoot would scoop them up and toss the fish in their mouth as if they were eating popcorn. On the way to the Bloomington, Indiana expedition, I had asked about some history on the Yeti. When was it first sighted? Where did it come from?
The search for these giant, man-like creatures started with the discovery of mysterious footprints. Huge footprints, which obviously were not made by any known form of human life. These initial discoveries were made mostly in the snowbound regions of the world, parts of Alaska, Canada, and most often by mountaineering expeditions in the Himalayas. the well-known mountaineer, Eric Stapleton, was returning from an Everest reconnaissance expedition. Eric was waiting out a storm at base camp number 3, close to the northern edge of Menlong Glacier. Now, this man was a professional photographer, as well as an educated scientific investigator and mountaineer. The giant footprints in the snow, photographed by Stapleton, were published by newspapers around the world. For the first time, the public came to know of the existence of a giant, man-like monster which actually exists in the Himalayas. A monster known as Yetti, or Bigfoot. Within 2 years, the reports of giant footprints deep within the wilderness areas of the world spread from the Himalayas into North America itself. In May of 1956, a man by the name of James Hunt not only discovered footprints along the muddy banks of the Fraser River near Alberta, but Hunt actually sighted the Bigfoot monster running into the woods. Unfortunately, he had no camera with him. And many people here in America said he was crazy, that the footprints were fake. But over the next few years, reports continued throughout Canada, Washington State, Oregon, and even into California. It soon became apparent that Bigfoot was not just a hoax. Something was there, leaving giant footprints deep in the wilderness.
Let's come take a look. On the second day of the expedition, I came upon a clearing, and the stench of a Yeti was upon me. The smell of the Yeti was all around me. Take a look. See how that water is rustling? That's a sure sign of a Yeti. It was a powerful stench, resembling day-old urine. Must have been getting close. Beyond that tree is the land of the Yeti, off limits to humans. There's nothing but vicious animals there. This just had to be the Yeti habitat. And not only that, but an Indiana Yeti habitat. I wondered if the Indiana Yeti was as frightening and disturbing as the encounter a Bigfoot scholar had recounted to me not long ago.
15 years ago, I was teaching science to a group of students. 5 of those students, 3 boys and 2 girls, were especially fascinated with the study of archaeology. So I arranged a field trip. As a result of that field trip, 3 of those students will spend the rest of their lives in a mental institution. One girl cannot speak to this day. She can only stare straight ahead in shock. She's totally unable to communicate with the world outside her mind. Right here in North America today, there are creatures that are known simply as Bigfoot. They were known to the Indian over 100 years ago, and they're still alive today.
I didn't pay too much attention to the scholar, who seemed a bit kooky, and my expedition continued. I never heard of anyone going to a mental institution because of a Yeti sighting. In fact, I did interview some people who recounted that Yetis threw stones at them, basically to harass them, which, I don't know, it's just not exactly frightening.
In 1924, Fred Beck and 4 other miners were in a cabin in the backwoods located in Washington State near St. Helens. There were 4 or 5 creatures who approached the cabin during the night and proceeded to harass the miners by throwing rocks and pounding on the walls and doors of the cabin.
In those days was big shoulders and small hips and hairy. They was, I call them a black turned brown by the sun. Outside hair. That's what I would call it.
I wasn't about to let some conspiracy kook stop me from completing my expedition to find the Indiana Yeti. I had interviewed many people who claimed to have encounters with Bigfoot. In fact, I recall one that just wasn't believable.
Albert Ostman, in 1924, was camped near Toba Inlet in British Columbia. While asleep in a sleeping bag, he was picked up and packed several miles. Daylight found him in a small valley encircled by cliffs. This was home for a family of these creatures. He was able to escape after 6 days by getting them sick on a box of snuff. Now let's listen to Mr. Ostman's experience.
Well, there was 4 of them, and none of them look alike. There was what I call the old man, because I had no scale or any rules for measurement, but he was at least 8 feet tall, and must have at least 800 pounds. But what I call the old lady, she couldn't have been over, what, 600-700 pounds. She was probably 7 feet tall, and they were all covered with hair.
On the 3rd day of my expedition, I'd gotten some hints that there was a Yeti somewhere around, but where I wasn't sure. I became increasingly concerned, as I had heard that Yetis were extremely powerful.
This is the site of the Fife Heights incident. One morning, approximately 4 o'clock, Dick Hancock and his friend came along this road, stopping the car right here when they saw a huge creature behind that sign over there. It was so tall, its head was above the street sign. The creature took approximately 3 steps, crossing the road. It was blinded by the headlights, and it almost bumped into this sign. As it sidestepped, it caught this sign before it went down over the hill. This is the sign that the creature struck, and it bent it like this, leaving these indentations or scratch marks.
In a clearing well in Yeti territory, I discovered another hopeful sign that I was getting close to a Bigfoot sighting. I saw chipmunk, a longtime favorite food of the Sasquatch. In fact, reports have often mentioned that they had seen Bigfoots eating chipmunks as if they were French fries. In fact, this jarred my memory of reports of other Sasquatch sightings.
Mr. John Green, publisher of a newspaper at Harrison Hot Springs, British Columbia, began investigating some of these sightings. Here is John Green to report on a sighting he investigated in 1957.
When I first came here in about 1957, it was still pretty well open. But all this has grown up since then. So what happened at that time was that Mrs. George Chapman, who lived in a house down by the river behind me here, she was in the house and their children were outside. One of them came in and told her that there was a cow coming out of the woods. So she looked out and she saw this man-like thing, but about 8 feet tall and completely covered with hair like a bear.
and she knew it to be a Sasquatch. This was, quite a well-known thing to the Indian people. And she was frightened, so she took the children, ran down to the river, and then through the graveyard, which is right behind me here, and came out just about here onto the track, and then ran on down to Ruby Creek. Now, she'd really only had one quick look at the thing, so it wouldn't be that convincing a story, except that a lot of people immediately went back there and saw these enormous tracks. Mr. Tifting, of course, was one of them, and can describe just what the tracks were like and what they did.
Well, he came through the bush into the shed, or the lean-to of the house, and there was a barrel of dried fish with smoked salmon rather, and he broke the barrel, and there was some fish eaten there and thrown around. And then he went down the riverbank and apparently took a drink and then come back up on the other side of the house, through the garden patch and up to CPR fence and stepped with 1 foot on that side of the fence and 1 foot on this side of the fence. I can walk right over it. And the footprints was about 18 inches, like. And then he went across there and over to the next fence there and went right up the hillside. And that's as far as we could follow it.
During the third day of the expedition, still no sign of the Indiana Yeti. I was becoming more and more discouraged. I was hoping to have a face-to-face encounter with Sasquatch, but so far, nothing. I wondered what he really looked like. I'd seen many drawings of a Yeti, but never an actual photo.
Green and others began to seriously investigate reported sightings. They found that many aspects of the sightings were the same. One of the first detailed drawings of a Sasquatch was made by Mrs. Myrtle Walton of British Columbia. Her father, William Rowe, had the unique experience of being able to watch a Sasquatch at close range. Mrs. Walton now tells us how it came about.
My dad come and asked me to draw a picture of this animal or human for him. He called it a Sasquatch, so he could send it to this John Green, and I draw the picture for him, and just exactly the way he told me he wanted to draw. There was a few things he changed on it, like he made the arms a lot heavier, and the head was different, and the breast was different, and the back part was different. So between the two of us, we patched it all up and we sent it to John Green.
We're definitely getting close to the Yeti. You can smell it in the air. Well, this is my third day in the wilderness looking for the Yeti. So far, he's remained elusive. Wait, I see something there. Yes, there's definitely something there, something rustling. Not sure what it is. The rustling leaves I had heard turned out to be a local sheriff, asking what I was doing out there. I shrugged my shoulders and said I was just hiking. He warned me that this was Yeti territory, and that it was dangerous for me to be there. He then told me of 2 hunters that were in the area last year, and they were attacked by an Indiana Sasquatch.
Go and drive him off, John.
I thanked the sheriff for his concern, and while his story was frightening, I assured him I would take every precaution. So I went back to my expedition. It was my last day anyway. Sadly, I never did see that sheriff again, and I heard much later that he had been attacked by a vicious Indiana Yeti and was found mutilated near his vehicle. Finally, on the last day of the expedition, I did see a Yeti close up. Too close. Much, much too close. In fact, I ran for my life. Wait, I see something there. Yes, there's definitely something there, something rustling. Not sure what it is. When I came to, I was disorientated but unharmed. I did receive one small scratch. I heard later that they had sent a search party to look for me. I was able to make my way back to camp, and the search party was recalled as well. This ended my expedition to find the Indiana Yeti, also known as the Indiana Sasquatch and the Indiana Bigfoot.